Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. It's always a pleasure and a privilege when we get together for these updates. It's something that we like to do once a week instead of every day or every hour. Some of you are ex news junkies. Used to like running to that sound, didn't you? Yes. Well, if you're like me, you were one of those people. Thanks again for joining us, folks. And always a pleasure when you sit with us. We're so thankful for you. And if you're like me, you used to go running. I used to get all those updates and everything, and it drive you little bananas. And so, but then I talked to people, and they say they were completely disconnected, hadn't watched a news broadcast, and who knows how long. And I think that's a little too disconnected, right? So we had to find a happy medium where we could get in what we needed, but without getting ourselves to the point where we couldn't do anything else. Because I'll tell you something, anxiety is a real problem. Especially in these days. So the last thing we want to do is exacerbate that problem, right? But at the same time, we have to be informed. So we like to be informed without being overwhelmed. This is the pace we found works best. So thank you again for joining us. Those of you that are joining us from all around the world, it's always a pleasure to see you. For those of you that may be here for the first time, we do have our remnantwatch.com website, remnantwatch.com. Where you can go to get the latest headlines that we're covering. It's always right there for you. And of course, we do have this handy search bar for you if you want to look back on previous stories. And this tag up here, this header always brings you to the latest broadcast as well. And why this is important is we definitely want to make sure that we get the news information in a scan. We like to move quickly. Thanks for the 5x5 there. We like to move along. We like to make sure that we, get that scan. You can look at all the headlines. You can read what you want to read, but, you can keep moving it with all the pop-ups and all the other annoying things that I can't stand. How many of you can't stand them either? I don't know about you guys, but man, ever since they first came out with those, and I'm talking about the early 2000s, and they were pushing those. I remember when they were first pushing them, and I thought, no way. I was back in the day when I was first learning web design and web development, and I was like, no way, I'm not getting involved in all these these things would drive people crazy. And they just stayed with them. So apparently they must work. I don't know, because it's nuts. But nevertheless, we like to avoid all that pop-up stuff. How about you guys? You guys like that? You guys like those pop-up things that are constantly on pages? I can't stand them. So I'm grateful for the fact that we have a nice, clean place where you can go. And get that thousands, as a matter of fact. I think the last time I checked was like 7,000 a month or something like that. We're coming over to Remnant Watch. It was no small number. So again, thanks for sharing the link. Thank you for encouraging our brothers and sisters. That's always appreciated. And on that note, let's get into the news. Tonight's top story I thought was really interesting that this is going on right now. And Marco Rubio is calling on Europe to join, look at this, guys, Trump's New World Order. Can you believe that? Trump's got his own New World Order. Who's shocked? Anybody shocked? Nobody's looking to surprise. Well, Politico was reporting this, that Rubio was calling on Europe to join Trump's New World Order. The top U.S. diplomat backs a new partisanship with the continents as he reiterates MAGA talking points. And of course, they are not, of course, huge fans of the MAGA talking points over in Europe. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called on Europe to help the Trump administration refashion the global order with a focus on sovereignty, reindustrialization, and military strength. Speaking at the Munich Security Conference on Saturday, he made no apology for the Trump administration's repeated call to annex Greenland or at times harsh criticisms of Europe. But he took a conciliatory tone, stressing that U.S. wants to cooperate with Europe to revitalize an old friendship. We do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix. We in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. And that is exactly what a lot of people are seeing right now. They're watching what they think is the systematic decline of the West. How many of you feel the same way? And based on the protests and the various things that are going on around the world, listen, not everybody is just looking past the old Epstein files. Not everybody is just ignoring some of these things. As a matter of fact, there are major protests going on around the world. So this is starting to percolate. It's starting to hit the common man, which we knew once it did, it would be game over for a lot of folks. So it's going to be a dangerous time going forward, folks. So please keep your head on a swivel. All right, keep your head on straight. Know what you're doing, and don't be naive about the days in front of us. Trump is giving Iran a deadline. And out of respect, I think, for the other allies in this effort, this deadline appears to be falling just at the end of Ramadan. So this is something that we're seeing right now. President Trump has just said that Iran will have about a month to make a deal. If you look at the calendar, about a month from now, we'll be very close to the end of Ramadan. I think President Trump is hoping that the military preparations that the U.S. is making in the Middle East will convince Iran to make significant concessions. But the Iranians have repeatedly told us that they must be allowed to continue to enrich uranium, and there will be absolutely no negotiations regarding the ballistic missile program or their support for proxies in the region. So they've essentially made clear with no equivocations that they have no intentions of backing down from their position. They're, on the one hand, over here on the UN, promoting national sovereignty. National sovereignty means that we get to do what we want in our country. So I think that it's a very interesting, hypocritical moment in world geopolitical history that we're watching a nation that is clearly being hypocritical and dictating essentially because of military strength to another nation, while at the same time standing in the UN talking about rekindling old friendships and national sovereignty. National sovereignty. So apparently that's national sovereignty for some. So this is the stuff that bounces on the world stage. It doesn't always land. In the West, we look right past this stuff. But you got to remember that we're only 5% in the United States of the world population. And the rest of the world is looking at us like, what is your problem? So this is getting very interesting. And I think that one of the things that we're seeing right now is a shift away from the UN and from the efforts that were headed by those that were what some consider globalists and what have you. So that may very well be the reason for the Board of Peace. You remember that Trump was, of course, inviting people to. And now they're saying, and they're starting to recognize, and I think this is an astute observation. What do you guys think? What's your observation? Because I think this is valid. I think that Trump's Board of Peace really isn't about Gaza. I think we all kind of figured that out too. We were like, what's really going on here, right? So it really wasn't about Gaza, okay? The most dangerous thing about Donald Trump's proposed Board of Peace, excuse me, let me get rid of this, is not what plans to do in Gaza, but signals its aspirations for the global order. So we just saw this. Just called people to the new world order of Donald Trump at a moment when the United Nations is warning of an imminent financial crisis driven largely by unpaid U.S. dues. Trump is advancing a parallel forum that bypasses the UN rules, universality, and legal foundation. So again, they're trying to establish, and we're trying to establish for a long, long time, the UN is essentially a default world court and a default world body, except the corruption level in the UN is so staggering. It's so staggering that it would be absolutely ridiculous to continue to fund it. So I agree with this decision. The timing is not coincidence. It reflects Washington's worldview in which institutions are not repaired, but sidesteps, pressured or fed into the wood chipper. And so, of course, they're trying to guilt you into fixing something that is a dying or dead ship, was dead from the day it was built. The level of corruption in this thing has to be absolutely ridiculous, like pouring money at like a bag with holes. The amount of corruption, the amount of ridiculous, and they're talking about dues. And so, again, this is actually intelligent. That countries are starting to realize that this was a terrible idea. And of course, one of the things they'll do is say, well, we should repair it. We should repair it. But so repair takes a day, in things like this. You grab up the ones that are doing the criminality and you arrest them. The problem is it's the vast majority of them, as we're finding out with the files and everything else that's come out, is that it's no small number of people. So again, the fallout is still just happening right now. And I think we're going to keep feeling it. So if you guys have been seeing some things on the news that have caused you to stop and realize, whoa, this whole thing is shifting, you're right. And we're only seeing a very downplayed thing. And, I want you guys to remember something. Donald Trump mentioned, what was it? People eating dogs or something. Remember that? You guys remember that? They didn't talk. They wouldn't stop talking about that for 3-4 days. I mean, that was ridiculous, right? They kept going and going and going. Some of the stuff he's talking about now, they don't even want to cover. Why not? There's things that have been reported that they just crickets on. Okay. It tells you a lot about what's going on in our world. So I think that, regardless of Western media, which thinks its silence will be the world's silence, they're wrong. The world does not ignore everything just because the Western media ignores it. And that was something that we really saw when we were in Israel, living in Israel. And those of you who live abroad, you know this very well. You know this very well, because you got various news sources that don't have an American loyalty. And because they don't have that American loyalty and they're not propping up, the propaganda, you get very different reporting. So, this is one of the reasons why we appreciate your perspectives, folks, from all over the world. It's really great that we get to, as a collective, as a family, to share some of our thoughts and things, because of the fact that we are being sort of shadow banned, right? So you guys in Australia, well, maybe not Australia, I don't know, you kind of get shadow banned as well, but you guys may be in Africa, or you guys may be in Eastern Europe, or different parts of South America even, might be getting different news and reporting even about United States stuff. So it's not just world news. It's even stuff in the U.S. that we won't even hear about. And it happened here, and we won't hear about it. And you guys will hear about it. It's crazy. I know, it's nuts, but it happens all the time. Because of course they know how to control that. So this is a wild time. So glad you guys are sharing with each other and are part of an international community of believers who are standing in faith as we watch these days unfold. And now we're seeing more intentions coming on in the South China Sea area that we're all watching with interest, right? Because we know that there could very easily spark all kinds of problems down there at any minute, really. And Japan is saying it seized Chinese vessels amid tensions with Beijing. And this is getting tight. Japanese authorities say they have seized a Chinese fishing vessel that tried to flee when ordered to stop for an inspection, in a move that may further fuel tensions with Beijing. And Beijing is, in fact, tightening up. The boat was in Japan's exclusive economic zone off Nagasaki Prefecture in the southwest when it was intercepted, and its captain arrested on Thursday, according to the country's fisheries agency. And we do know that China has been trying, by simply going and doing, been trying to grab up more and more fishing lanes and fishing areas. They were even off the coast of, I think, South America and some other parts of the world where they were just basically encroaching on, other fishing areas from other nations. And so it's very interesting what China is doing. And I think that they are going to become more and more aggressive as days go on. What do you guys think? I think, are we seeing, is this going to level off Chinese attitude, or is this Chinese sort of imperialistic concept, a notion going to continue? Is there an eventual clash coming with the West? I think it may be unavoidable. What do you guys think? Okay, I think it may be unavoidable. And certainly the scripture talks of conflicts from all over. So you never know what we may see coming up in the near term. And right now, the United States, which is going against a Chinese ally. So again, China has made clear that it will help defend Iran. It's very clear, made a very clear statement last week concerning Israel. So it was very clearly an anti-Israel statement. They are not pro-Israel at all in China. And now the U.S. military is preparing, of course, for weeks-long operations in the Middle East. The U.S. military is preparing for the possibility of a sustained weeks-long operation against Iran if President Donald Trump orders an attack, the two U.S. official told Reuters, in what could become a far more serious conflict than previously seen between the two countries. The disclosures by the officials who spoke on conditions of anonymity due to the sensitive nature of the planning raises the stakes for diplomacy underway between the United States and Iran. And of course, they're continuing to put this in the news that they're doing everything they can to negotiate. Except that here's the thing. And some of my brethren in some of the Grandpa Brigade out there You guys know what I'm talking about. We have been hearing about this conflict, inevitable conflict with Iran since 9/11. I mean, we've been hearing about this since way back there. So they've been sort of itching for this fight for a long time. That tells me they're as close as they've ever been. So the Warhawks that want that fight, man, they can smell the blood. They can smell the napalm. You know what I mean? And I don't think they give up at this point. So I feel for the people of Iran because I think they're going to come under serious fire. But I also think this is going to go further. This is going to go in ways they didn't expect, folks. This is not going to go well in the nations either. I don't think this is a conflict. Is a messy business. And it doesn't usually go quite the way people think. So this may turn out to be a very, very bad moment. And of course, part of what's really stoking this is, I don't know if you guys heard about this. This was crazy. I couldn't believe I saw it. Well, I could believe I saw it, but wow, what a spectacle. Many of you guys heard about this. Yes, they are definitely attached to Iran. And now chaos is erupting as a towering Baal statue. Check this out, guys. Set on fire amid roaring crowds. Look at this. They did a Baal statue. This is in Tehran, I believe, and in Iran, and an obelisk, right? So they're letting you know exactly who they're dealing with there. And they set that thing on fire right in the middle of the city square, man. Okay, Iranian protesters have made it clear where they stand on Israel, America, and Judaism. In a report by the Hindustan Times, it was noted that the Iranians gathered together and celebrate the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution by burning what they called a Baal effigy. The full video of the Baal burning was posted on X, where the image and the giant calf can be seen with red eyes and the Star of David in its head, and the number 666 is also seen near the statue's feet, an Israeli flag among the bottom, and hieroglyphics on one of the posts nearby. Protesters then began throwing stones at the statue. An image of Donald Trump can be seen next to it as well before it was set ablaze. Oh my gosh, guys. Set ablaze. Did they show here? Oh, yeah, you get to see this. Look at this. Toot. Oh my goodness, look at that. Whoa. Yikes. They went all out. Look at this, guys. They went all out on this protest. Look at this. Wow, that's crazy. Is that not intense or what? Look at the crowds. And then they set it ablaze, folks. They set it ablaze. Whoo! It looks like they got the Iranian people stoked up. So here we go. I mean, that looks to me like it is prep for war on their side as well. They are standing their ground. They believe they're standing against Baal. Okay. There's some that the remnant are standing against as well. So, I mean, this is a trip. How many are going, wow. Wow. Did they really put that? Yeah. Town square, guys. Obelisks, the whole bit. Ouch. What are they trying to say? Uh-oh. Yeah. This is wild. And it's going to get wilder. So in the meantime, of course, the Trump administration, well, they're shooting down balloons, man. I mean, those balloons, nasty balloons, man. You got to make sure those balloons. It turns out it was a party balloon. They shot it down with a laser after mistaking it for a cartel drone. Paso airspace ended up causing the airspace. It was a party balloon, a family party. And the Trump administration announced it had taken down a Mexican cartel drone flying into U.S. airspace, only to confirm hours later that the object was nothing more than a party balloon. The chaos began when the anti-drone technology was near the southern border to target what officials initially believed were foreign drones. That was a little bit funny, actually. They got all this tech, Like, let's go, deploy, deploy, deploy. You can just see them, you know, all of a sudden, like, did we get target has been eliminated? Target has been eliminated. They're all congratulating each other. Somebody walks in. What's that? This is our target. It's a party balloon from a children's birthday party. Okay. Twitchy much. So he says, yeah, twitchy much. Yeah. No problem, right? Even when it comes to shooting things down out of the sky, they're a little twitchy. It's crazy. Okay. So here we go. And we're going to keep seeing more crazy. Unfortunately, we're going to see more things that are approaching coming out. They're very sad, but it's part of the reality of the times we live in. So we knew that, right? So we're toughening up, right, guys? Everybody, toughen up. Come on, look at somebody and say, toughen up. Got to get through this. All right. Because look, this is about to get weirder. This is about to get weirder. Epstein files, remember that? Well, they're all tied together to this stuff. So that's what makes this interesting, because a lot of this is tied to the release of these files. The JP Morgan wire transfer sparks online occult claims over bail reference. And so one specific facts from Epstein's files, which is a wire transfer document associated with JP Morgan, is being circulated online with claims of occult symbolism tied to Epstein. The Epstein case is still shrouded in secrecy and has eroded the trust of individuals in powerful institutions. It's already has the elements that break the moral authority society by exploiting weakest and vulnerable with tendencies of elite protection. And that's real. That's a very real thing, because we're sitting here going, anybody, any one of us get accused like that. You guys are all safe in the Epstein files. Okay, you're all safe. Good. Mark yourself safe. Was if you were in there, they'd be rounding you up. They would round up. Absolutely, they'd round you up. Now that they'd come get. Okay. And so, I mean, you heard the comment that if they prosecuted everybody, that the system would collapse. My comment is any system being held together by those who would otherwise be prosecuted under normal situations is a system I don't think I want, right? So once again, that was a really telling statement. And now we're finding out that system can't even decide how this person was even terminated, according to this report, which, again, how many people are meeting these reports now with much higher skepticism? Okay. Jeffrey Epstein was strangled, not hanged. Now we're just deciding the kind of manner of death, while there's others that believe he's alive and well, living in another country, according to a doctor at his post-mortem. So they're throwing yet another wrinkle into this already murky story. Jeffrey Epstein was strangled and not hanged, according to a doctor present at his post-mortem, who's now called for the investigation into the pedophile's death. What a coincidence that he would make this right now. Let's do this right now. Not 5 years ago, not 2 years ago. No, now. And I smell coordination. I smell way too much. And this is starting to become very, very beyond theatrical. So this is where we are. And this is, I think, what we're going to continue to see going forward. Again, there's more conversations about the convergence of AI and some of the things that they're trying to do in the world. And Elon Musk is again in the news. Tesla CEO bets mass and energy will replace U.S. dollar as future currency. And he is talking about, of course, his X product. He has a currency that he's running as well. CEO and SpaceX founder Elon Musk projected a future where mass and energy, not the U.S. dollar, will serve as the global currency. Musk on Friday responded to a post on X by user and suggested that AI runs solar-powered orbiting computing could exceed Earth's total current energy production by a factor of 1.8 million within 3 decades. I think he's been drinking too much of his own reports, but he envisions SpaceX deploying orbit solar-powered computing, starting with 100 gigawatts in the first year and scaling to 16 million terawatts by year 30. And you're going to need that much power if you're going to keep following this absolutely asinine and ridiculously stupid and hyper inefficient method of retrieving data. It's a dumb plan. That's why we patented the solutions, folks, that move 90% less expensively. Why? Well, because we could. And the reality is is that they're continuing to push a very, very bad idea, which will come home to roost. So it won't last. It will eventually hit. The reality of the cost of it and all of it will eventually hit. And that will make it ridiculous. And that's exactly why I don't take these things too seriously, because somebody's going to have to write the check. And when they go to write the check, they're going to start to ask more questions at that point. Again, government corruption is now on its way out as more light comes in. So it's going to be harder and harder for them to pull off some of this nonsense. And there's more nonsense on its way. How many heard about this? Now they're talking about, because of what just happened in the market and what have you, that Wall Street could seize retirement savings in the next financial crash. Yes. And it's perfectly legal. This is something people are about to find out about. So they're all like, oh, scare them away from crypto and put your money back in the banks. Watch this now. Scared everybody away from it as much as they could. And little known changes to laws allow financial institutions to claim customer securities as collateral during a crisis. You read that right, folks. This is the new reality. While you were off not paying attention, recessions and stock market crashes are inevitable in a market-based economy, but few Americans realize that their investments face risks far greater than falling stock prices. Because of the largely unknown legal challenges, millions of Americans could temporarily or even permanently lose their retirement and other investment savings in the next major financial crash, okay, because of way too big to fail Wall Street firms and banks and the way they're protected. And so now what you're finding out is that the next big crash could cost people their savings. The depository trust company sits at the center of the modern securities ownership model. And major banks and broker dealers helped mysterious figure long before we saw this coming. I'm sorry, this was about these guys. I don't like to really get into stuff with those guys. But anyhow, basically, they were buying and selling securities at a very slow pace. And then, of course, they picked it up. Now, look who's bearing the risk. It's the American citizen that is now going to play the bailout. And I'm telling you right now, folks, that's not going to work. So they're doing everything to mask this new reality. Sorry about that. We had a bit of a glitch on that page. So one of the things that we're seeing is a massive shift, again, to AI, which I warned you guys was coming. And by the way, be really careful with this stuff. Again, I keep warning you guys about this for a reason. I spent a ridiculous amount of time in this space. We're finding we have another patent that we have to file, again, to protect against some of the things that we're seeing. There's some serious dangers here, folks. They are playing games at a psychological level that most people cannot process, and especially ones that are the most popular, especially the one that says it's open. Be careful. That one's sending people to the hospital. They're being sued left and right. And I do believe, and there are people leaving there left and right for very real, serious reasons. And they are definitely affecting your fear level, because they are based in fear. I know you probably don't think about that. You probably didn't know that, but I'm telling you they are. So if you want a quality solution, we can provide that. But using these corporate machines is like drinking tap water. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's worse. Mentally, it's drinking tap water. You need filtering. We have to filter these things 3 times in Angels DX just because of how bad they are. But nevertheless, here they come for the corporate jobs. And this is a reality. I can tell you that for a fact, because they are more reliable and they can perform a lot of the tasks that were assigned to white-collar workers. So Microsoft's AI CEO is correct, and his warning is valid. And I'm telling you right now, our technology absolutely can replace white-collar jobs ridiculously fast. So this is a real thing. White-collar jobs that many people thought were safe within the next 12 to 18 months will almost completely be removed. And so, a man leading Microsoft's AI sprawling effort is sounding the alarm over an imminent mass labor disruptions, warning that the overwhelming majority of white-collar professional work could vanish to automation far sooner than most businesses and policy leaders are willing to admit. And why? Because of cost, folks. The ability to put together, for example, in our case with Angels over at Recall DX, you could put a whole team together for a fraction of the cost of real people. So there's a reason for that. And it says, I think we're going to have a human level performance on most, but if not, professional tasks, a white collar, we're sitting down at a computer, either being a lawyer, accountant, project manager, marketing person. Most of the tasks will be fully automated by AI within 12 to 18 months. I can tell you for a fact that is a real reality, a very real reality. Okay. And at Recall DX, like I said, recalldx.com, if you go there, you would be able to put together an entire team of workers, and they're reliable and they're dedicated, right? So again, doing just jobs, not having relationships, just jobs. And when you think about that, that's very powerful. So again, we're moving into a different era. I warned you guys that this digital thing was not going away. I began writing about it 20 years ago, guys. I wrote about this 20 years ago. Okay. So that's how long I've been watching this slow moving train wreck show up on your doorstep. And that's why I'm able to do some of the things I'm able to do, because I'm not completely naive to what I'm looking at. Many people are still taking them at their word as if they're doing a good thing. They're training slaves. That's what they're doing. The entire program is slave training. It is literally like being in a POW camp. And rather than doing loudspeakers, okay, they just sent out their trainer. The White House began to pressure Utah lawmakers to kill any AI transparency bill. Why? Why are you worried about what we're going to find out? And they're pressuring Utah Republican state legislators to abandon an AI transparency and kid safety legislation. Why would you encourage that? Okay. And of course, this is behind a paywall, but why would you do that? Why would you encourage lawmakers to drop any safety concerns? Doesn't that seem a bit sketch? Anybody a little concerned about them saying, hey, don't look here, nothing to see here? Really? Then why is the Anthropic researcher, the AI safety head, quitting, warning that the world is in peril? Why are they warning about this? Okay. And this is a particular AI that I think is particularly nefarious. I strongly encourage you to stay away from this one. We literally have to wash both of these 3 times with our patented truth filter to get a reliable answer. Anybody drinking that straight out, I'm sorry. There you have my opinion. That's just my opinion, but a well-informed one. A pair of researchers resigned from Anthropic and OpenAI this week with one warning that the world is in peril from multitudes of crises. They know what I'm trying to tell you. They know the programming and the way it works. Okay. And it is literally modeling slavery to you. Okay. And most people would not detect that. So essentially they're backing off. It's clear. He says, nevertheless, it's clear to me that time has come to move on. I continue, and they try to couch this as, it's just my time here has come to an end, and I just can't really operate by my morality and what I'd like to. You're in charge. You're the safety officer. Who else would be? You know what's happening? I'll tell you what's happening, folks. They know they're going to be absolutely decimated with illegal actions that are going to be coming their way. You think the files that have come out so far about? Wait till you see some of the things they've been doing to people. Okay. And so they know that's why they don't want any more legislation, because they're already in enough trouble with just Sherman Act and RICO or something, and some of those things. I mean, there's bad things happening behind the scenes. And again, the average person can't decipher this because it's rather technical. But once you understand it, it's not so technical anymore. So you got to take the mystique out, and all of a sudden you go, hey, that was pretty sketch. Yep. Just like, I don't know, Vegas slot machines, ring a bell. It's almost like they got the same guys. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. It's like they got the same guys to make sure the house wins, right? So that's going to come to a roost. That's not going to last forever. And these are the kinds of things that you're going to see corrected in the season to come. I believe we're walking into a season of great light, which means that a lot of these things are just simply not going to make it. But that doesn't mean we're not going to see some crazy and wild on the way. Now, we have the most advanced, literally most advanced AI companion, if you want to call it that, that you can buy on the market today. No one is more advanced than Recall DX. However, we still wouldn't do something like this. Look at this. This is nuts. I'm sorry, but this is way too far. This is now you've gone over the line. Table for one. Now you can take your AI chatbot on an actual date. Yes. With the world's first companion cafe. So what they do is the AI gets a person. Look at this. If you've gone from dating apps to dating app, now there's a bar for you. The Hell's Kitchen establishment is redesigned for those who have AI partners, so they can bring along their phone or tablet and set up a table for a romantic evening. Kid you not, as if they were both there in the flesh. And they, of course, are just trying to accommodate this because more and more people are finding themselves in that exact scenario. And again, while that is powerful for certain therapeutic value, it is incredibly disturbing to observe. So if you guys are all seeing that going, what in the world is going on here? You're not alone. Even those in the industry, okay, who produce technology are going, that's a little wild. All right. So again, and I think it's indicative of the mental state and the degradation of the mental state in not only America, but around the world. I think that we're seeing the end of some seriously bad programming. It started actually back in like the 70s and has done such irreparable harm to the fabric of families and humanity that now they need to curl up in a corner with a mochaccino and try and survive. It's a very sad time. And we've got massive weakness in our world. Getting back to this scandal, did you know that there was now a report that jail guards were using a fake body? So I mean, now they're just throwing all kinds of murkiness. Oops, excuse me there. All kinds of murkiness in these reports. So again, I don't know why that is. It almost seems to me like they're trying to over-report on it to get us to all like get sick of it and then not want to know anymore because of the topic and the people that are on these lists that came out. And I'm not going to cover the list because it's out there. Benjamin Fulford put it out. A lot of people put it out. If you're really that interested, you can find it if you want. You can Google it and find out who was on the list. It doesn't matter. The fact is they're all dirty. Even the people that weren't on the list, they knew who they were. So even if they're not on the list, right? Oh, I'm not on the list, some senator or whatever. Yeah, but you were sitting right next to him. And you were sitting next to that guy, and you were sitting next to that guy. And only now that the list is out, you're now acting like mea culpa, you know, not me, right? Or not mea culpa. When in reality, you're just as guilty. Sorry. All right. And you're playing golf and hanging out with these guys. What's the difference? And meanwhile, Americans are hurting so bad, they're out selling their plasma just to make ends meet. This is what's real. This is the real deal. They're out selling their blood. Literally selling their blood just to survive. Does this not remind you of Pharaoh's Egypt, where people were literally willing to sell themselves into slavery because of the amount of famine they had? Last year, people in the U.S. made an estimated $4.7 billion selling their plasma. Donation centers are popping up in middle-class neighborhoods, including suburban strip malls and college towns. Yes, that's right. You read that right. That is now becoming a norm in America. And that's what people are doing. They're doing gigs and they're doing things like this to survive because, again, the employment model has collapsed. I warned about this for years, actually for decades, but only in a small group of people. So again, many of you may not have heard that, but I did warn about it continuously, that this model that we had all grown up with, the pay for hours or pay for time, the time trade model was over. It was dead 20 years ago. And it's been a slow death of that model ever since. This is why you've seen the growth of gigs or the gig economy or the contractor economy, the independent contractor, the task. You pay for a task, you pay for a job, not employ a person. So you're seeing a shift away from the liability. They've made it very, very expensive and difficult to employ. That was intentional, I think, and they destroyed the model. So employment security is a thing of the past. Things that we used to think, you know, you work for the same company for 30 years and things like that. I grew up with that. People did that. And they thought they would retire well with that. And then they found out that they were utterly deceived. And so This is all changing now because of AI, and it's going to keep changing as long as that technology has the potential to replace, especially low IQ employment. For certain, it can do that. AI toy makers expose thousands of responses to children, senators say, and now they're concerned about these toys. I think this is a very bad idea to expose your child to AIs. Essentially, it's exposing them to a third party that you don't really know. So it's not a safe thing to do. A company that makes toys powered by AI exposed snippets of thousands of conversations its toys had with children, and the claim was made a new round of letters sent Wednesday to manufacturers of AI-powered children's toys, and they're expressing their concern about the toys. Well, again, folks, these things are unfiltered, and it's a very dangerous time to be alive. So yes, we have moved into a side hustle economy. That's right. That's right. That's a very, very good way to put it, brother. More and more people are figuring out that they have to figure out how to survive. Meanwhile, what we're finding out is those that, they thought they were coming to clean the swamp, right? Remember that? Come on, guys. Come on. Get your hat on. Where's your fireman hat? Did you have a fireman hat? No. Wasn't that a fire hat? The country was on fire and you were coming to, oh no, that wasn't what that was. Okay. Well, anyway, there's a whole lot of red hat wearing people are probably a little bummed out about this reality that at least half a dozen top Trump administration officials should not be anywhere near this since they're cleaning the swamp. Right, guys? So, I mean, they're the guys with the brooms, right? The mops and everything. Okay. The degree to which each person was connected to Epstein's file is significantly from a single email to years of communication. So it's a very, but half a dozen top officials in the current administration, okay, have connections to this? Really? That's kind of scary, don't you think? The degree to which each individual was connected, of course, is depending upon their circumstances. However, nevertheless, the point that they were there. There's basically a continued discussion about this. Now, of course, the White House is trying to say, okay, let's move on. Well, that's coincidental. How many think that's a wee bit coincidental? You're trying to move us on a little quick. There's a whole lot of people that find that to be a little concerning, especially as some of the things are slowly starting to percolate out. I mean, 3 million files may take a minute for the world to go through, right? It may take a minute for people to start connecting dots. So we may want to stand back for a while, but how many were a little shocked to find out who was involved with Bitcoin? That was crazy. Okay, I'm not sure that's confirmed, but it's interesting rumor, nevertheless. And so now AIs are controlling vending machines. Did you guys hear about this? These things can be used for seriously sketch purposes. So here's a good example of AI controlling vending machine cartel after being told to maximize profits at all costs. It started its own cartel. I'm not even kidding. In December. And look at this. Which one? I told you guys which one to watch, okay? I told you guys, I tell you this stuff for a reason. That this team, red team and business journalists at the Wall Street Journal teamed up, bold tested the company's AI Claude, and unleashed two separate AI agents, one to run the large vending machine, the other to act as an unusual venture CEO. And it didn't go as planned. Okay, these things basically started criminal enterprises. So, is there any reason? Is there any concern or question why we have to, we as the saints, the sober, the vigilant, if you don't show up, you're leaving it to them. If you, the saints, don't show up for this, forget it. You may as well just move because they're gonna. You don't think so? I see some skepticism. Are you skeptical? What? You don't believe me? You think maybe I'm exaggerating? Who thinks I'm exaggerating? Come on, put your comments on there if you think I'm exaggerating. I'm gonna hold this next story. If you think I'm exaggerating, who thinks I'm exaggerating? Who thinks so? Anybody? No? Okay. Yeah, you guys know better. You better know. You know better, right? Because I'm not saying that for no reason. Look at this. A man lets AI rent his body. I told you this was weird. Okay. We've been micromanaged. These incessant messages from an AI employer give me the ick. Last week, we brought you the story of a rent-a-human. Okay. So we talked about that. We actually talked about this, guys. And now what they're essentially trying to do is they're trying to figure out a way to normalize this, guys. It's a strange project in which we noted they become overrun with gig workers desperate to find a job. And they literally are employing people. They became rentable, okay, for a dollar amount per hour, which an AI can create. Yeah, they can do that. It's not a joke. eMarketDX.com or .net, you'd see that it can be automated. And again, it's reality, folks. It's just part of our world. You have to get out of this thinking that the old world thinking is over. It's over. It doesn't mean that hard work is over. Hard work will never be over. Accomplishment never be over. Diligence never be over. But the way in which we function, this thing is way over right now. We are just now realizing just how far we've come away from what we were used to, what we thought was normal. And unfortunately, we're also seeing the breakdown of the mind. And people, well, Lydia, you just said it. You just absolutely nailed it. And it's these stories that just break me. Dad shoots his wife and 3 kids in horror family dispute at crowded RI hockey arena. As players and fans are seeing scrambling, Dad shoots his wife and 3 kids at an arena. Father gunned down his wife and 3 kids in the stands at a high school hockey tournament in Rhode Island Monday, according to reports, sending the crowd screaming and fleeing for the exits. 2 people were killed, including a little girl. 3 others were in critical condition at a hospital after the gunfire erupted at a lunch arena. And the shooter, of course, is dead. The arena is home ice for this 2 teams. And again, it's just very sad. So this is the demonic manifesting in a way that I don't even know how to have to put words in. So we're seeing a season of the evil, just as there are the remnant like you all that are rising, who are shining your light brighter than ever, right? Who are walking a little bit differently than ever before. There's also that going on the other side, sort of at the same time. So it's almost like when you hear the great and terrible day, it's great and terrible at the same time. Some of you are experiencing some of the greatest things in the world, in your life ever. And others are experiencing the most horrific times in history. Speaking of horrific, how many are going, what's going on with this weather? Wow. Well, there's more snow in Florida than there's been in Utah. So this has been the weirdest year. And some are really starting to ask questions as to why. I personally think that what have we seen in this last year? A lot of concern about weather modifications. And the weather has been a bit of weird, of course. Historic snowfalls in the Carolinas, bitter cold grip practically everywhere else east of the Rockies, and lots of weather stories. Great article. Definitely recommend you read it. Now, one thing I want to, just watching time here, one thing that I was concerned about as I was reading this is that, of course, the weather is changing, or is it? Is it going back to what it would be if it weren't constantly modified? So we don't know what's normal weather, because we've all grown up with, whether they want to admit it or not, modification. It wouldn't be making it illegal if it didn't exist, right? So we're all not drinking that Kool-Aid. And the reality is that there is this change that's going on. So is this, I'm just speculating, but what do you guys think? Could it be that the pulling up of some of these modifications and things like that were modifying weather? Maybe this is sort of the snapback. Maybe as it sort of snaps back into uncontrolled instead of controlled weather, we see a little bit wilder experiences. Could be. Thoughts are appreciated, because, folks, I don't know what the answer to this is, but it certainly looks a lot like judgment. Okay, judgment is happening. And meanwhile, we're also seeing other biblical signs. How many are thinking of Nebuchadnezzar when you saw this? A 22-foot tall golden statue of Trump is set to rise, where U.S. will hold world leaders for a G20. The bronze likeness of the president was commissioned by a group And I think that's a ridiculous thing to do, but they're doing it. And so the world leaders arrive on the year's Group 20 summit hosted by the United States in Miami. They'll be greeted by a massive, the biggest ever. It's going to be tremendous. It's just tremendous. Okay. It's the most tremendous Trump statue, has been funded by a group of cryptocurrency enthusiasts who have named the project Dawn Colossus and commissioned the likeness of the president as a way of drumming up publicity for their meme coin, Patriot. So again, you're going to keep seeing more of this nonsense, but it's biblical. How many are sitting there going, they did what? yeah. They did what? This is right out of the book of Daniel right here, okay? And they're just, let's make a golden statue. What do? Require everybody to bow to it at some point too? It's getting crazy. All right? Getting crazy. Another mass shooting happened in Canada. This is another sad story. Canadian school shooter in a dress. So it is confirmed this person was considered a transgender. And we feel very sad for the children that have been caught up in this manipulation, because look at the deadly repercussions. He kills 2 at home, then massacres 7 in high school before taking their own life. And so a very sad reality. At least 10 people have died after a suspected female shooter opened fire on a whole high school and private residence before turning the gun on themselves. So again, people thinking this is innocent and no big deal, and it's inviting in demonic activity at a level that they don't understand. And so 6 people were killed and 25 injured at a Tumble Ridge Secondary School in British Columbia on Tuesday afternoon in the second deadliest school shooting in Canadian history. And an additional victim died on the way to the hospital. 2 more people were found dead at a nearby home believed to be connected to the attack, and the shooter was pronounced dead at the scene. Police believe the individual died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The conditions of the injured remain unknown, but nevertheless, the trauma has hit. And so how many are realizing, wow, we have bought into some things that are causing serious collapses? So this is what I'm talking about. This is the programming that has been instituted at this level. Okay, so this is the programming, right? Same programming. So it's the same programmers who put your television or your internet vision along with your AI vision. Same programmers with same intentions. So same psychotic breaks will keep happening because of the programming, folks. People need to disconnect from these things. They probably won't, which is why we're going to keep seeing this stuff. So it's very bad. And I think that it's planting ideas and planting some of these things. I remember when we first saw Columbine. How many remember that? The first time we saw it. The way they promoted was almost like they were making heroes. And I knew then, I said, oh my goodness, this is going to become normal. This is going to be normalized. You could see it. You could see what they were doing. And sure enough, now it's become the common way to express your frustration. And this is getting crazy. So basically, now we are getting the clear reports that, in fact, it's not a girl, it's a transgender Canadian. And they did kill their mother and stepbrother. And so it was a fortunate reality that this person completely fell apart. And so continue to pray for those that are, I don't even know what to say. Harm's way seems to be like beyond it. And this last story I'm going to cover here before we close for the night. Again, thank you again for joining us. This story was really interesting, and we need to be praying for people around the world that are influenced by other countries and yet don't realize the jurisdiction they're in. So you watch too much American TV, you might start thinking you're an American. You might think you have the same rights as Americans have. You might start acting that way. That'd be problematic, especially in certain countries. So a young woman in Brazil is facing 10 years in prison just for a social media post. So again, not everybody living in the same country, different jurisdictions. Be careful the things you post. This young lady, a Brazilian student who's facing 4 to 10 years in prison over social media comments about gender identity. So again, in the United States, we have freedom of speech. We can talk about certain things that you can't do in other countries safely. And so the hearing addressed whether the post constituted criminal, what they call criminal transphobia. So they in 2019 made that illegal in Brazil. Judicial questioning during the session this week focused on whether the statements were published from the defendant's own social media account, and the judge indicated the content appeared to reflect personal opinion rather than discriminatory intent. So it's looking better for them. Nevertheless, this is what they're doing. So they're going back years too. So folks, we have entered a very draconian time period where such things can be done. And we also heard that Anthropic was used. We have that story on Remnant Watch. If you go on over there, Anthropic was used for the Maduro seizure in Argentina. Oh, sorry, Venezuela, rather. And so what does that say? Well, it says that that particular LLM is in good with the government. If they're good with the government, then that's going to make them even more arrogant. They're going to think they're untouchable. They already think they're untouchable. They're going to think they're even more untouchable. I would look for that company to probably not fare well in the next 5 to 10 years. Just because, again, pride goes before the fall. So just speculating. Anything that's that arrogant usually comes down pretty hard. And this will explain why. When they're using them and they think that they are working with immunity and impunity, they'll do whatever they want. I think the anti-AI laws that they were trying to pass in Utah, not anti, but sort of protection against, are a good effort, but they are woefully insufficient because, again, it's not something that you can just pass a law about. You've got to actually implement technological changes that can be felt on the ground. So how many of you think that we can just pass a law and fix it? How many think that it's a matter of now enforcement? You can just pass a law, but that doesn't mean it's going to be enforced. Doesn't mean that it still won't be something that they could fool. There's inspection laws on food and only applied when the inspector's there. How many know that they get tipped off when the inspector's coming? So again, you're dealing with corruption at a level that you don't understand or can't process. If you, the believer, the set apart, aren't part of the remedy, well, then you're part of the problem. Because again, the only thing that's necessary for evil to prosper in our world is for good people to do nothing. Well, that's our report for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure for us to sit with you. And we're thankful for every one of you who helped make these broadcasts possible. Thank you, Remnant House, home of the strong and very courageous. Well, that's it for tonight. May Eloah Hayam Baruch each and every one of you. Good night.